Ladies, gentlemen, and nightfarers of all ages, with Nightraign's network tests soon coming to a close and multiple sessions now under my belt myself, I have played the game quite a bit, tried a whole load of different tactics and general playstyles for what is available, and so today I want to just talk about what has, in my experience, led to the most consistent success, the best sort of strategies and mindsets for how to treat the different parts of the gameplay loop to maximize your chances of moving forward and surviving. And then, well, obviously what you find in a run is random. We will talk about either specific uses of heroes that are powerful and any particularly important things to note about weapons or gear, as well as special ones to look out for. First things first then, I want to shout out health percentage damage. In general, consider the fact that this game is mostly designed for 3 players, and the way that they will bloat the health bar of every enemy in the game when you are playing this way. This means just by default when playing in groups, when something like a bleed proc triggers, it will absolutely chunk an enemy's health bar down. Or if you get something like a Scarlet Rock weapon, or maybe a Catalyst with Rot Breath or X Decay, applying Scarlet Rot to enemies will just slow burn win you the fight, the same way that it can be done in regular Elden Ring. So for this reason, things that apply Bleed, Black Flame, Destined Death, or Scarlet Rot are pretty exceptional pickups in Nightreign, and if you are offered decent weapons or spells to apply these, that can be the focus of your entire run from that point forwards. That said, an important note here is that at least for the sake of the network test, a lot of the combat seems to be running on essentially base game 1.0 Elden Ring, which also means that Bleed, more so than any other status, is insanely powerful in this patch. So while health percent damage is something I absolutely recommend if you want consistent success in general, Bleed itself is by far the best source of this. As well, Wylder has an enhanced moveset with all greatswords, Guardian has an enhanced moveset with all halberds, and Duchess has an enhanced moveset with all daggers. So if you can work around those weapon types with those characters and the drops that you're offered, they tend to be quite effective. Outside of that, this information also means that pretty much every weapon that you are used to being powerful from base Elden Ring, especially in the early patches of the game, is also very strong here. It probably goes without saying that weapons with higher rarity do tend to genuinely be better as a whole as well, and while you can upgrade weapons with smithing stones you find in the world to increase their rarity, that will only make their stats better. It won't give you things like the powerful passives you can get on legendary weapons. Speaking of passives then, when weapons spawn in, they will generally generate a random passive. The vast majority of these are just various stat bonuses like increased guard counter damage, increased damage while two-handing, increased poise after a successful block, damage negation bonuses, things like that. These passives for the vast majority of the weapons, especially all of the pure stat bonuses, are always active if you have the item equipped, even if it is not in your hand. You have 6 weapon slots and no weight limit in Nightreign as well, so a good general practice is to fill all of your weapon slots with useful passives, even if you don't plan to wield that weapon itself. That said, legendary weapons specifically are unique in that they all come with a set passive rather than a random one, and a lot of these don't apply to all of your other weapons. They vary in power, but a few of them are exceptional and worth calling out to say, absolutely pick that item if it is offered to you. The Darkmoon Greatsword has carry and retaliation on all light and heavy attacks. This also puts a magic damage negation debuff on any enemies that you hit with the attacks too, so it's very strong. The Sacred Relic Greatsword pulses out a ring of light in a large radius around you on charged heavy attacks, which is fantastic for clearing out groups of enemies, which is a lot of the combat of the game. Malekith's Black Blade applies Destined Death on every hit, which is extremely effective. The Hand of Melania gives you essentially the Bloodborne rally mechanic, where after you take damage, if you hit an enemy, you will regenerate health and you have a window of about a couple of seconds to do this. This is actually powerful enough in Nightraign's mechanics that you can often even heal more damage than you took from the initial hit, making it extremely good for survivability and sustainability long term, which is great in a game where survival is extremely important and healing is relatively limited. Then there is the Winged Greathorn, and this is basically a support weapon more than anything. The passive makes it able to apply the effect of the weapon skill just on light or heavy attack at random, which means that you have access to a 0 FP cost debuff that you can place on any enemy in the game that reduces their damage negations, increasing not only your own damage to them, but your entire party's damage too. And because it is 0 FP to do this and it's automatic on hits, you can just do this consistently to every enemy that you fight. Then there's the Mohgwyn Sacred Spear, which I can't show properly in the sparring room, but whenever a bleed happens nearby you, you get a boost to attack power. So the Lord of Blood's Exaltation talisman effect, and given how strong bleed is right now, as we talked about before, and the power of this weapon's Ash of War, it's super solid at the moment. Then the final one that I really want to shout out here is the Lion Greatbow. Ranged weapons are actually quite usable in Nightreign because they have unlimited unlimited ammo, and the passive on this makes all regular arrow shots, meaning everything but the weapon skill itself, also apply an AoE burst gravity pull-in effect. This doesn't do much damage, but it groups up enemies in a clump repetitively on a very short timer from range, and it costs 0 FP to do. If you find yourself able to use this early enough where you still get to actually farm packs of enemies for runes, it can be extremely effective, though obviously you can't use legendary weapons until you're level 12, so of course that is a bit of a caveat for that one. As well, I want to shout out that when picking rewards from the purple orbs that spawn from defeated mini-bosses and things like that, you do generally speaking want to try and build with some level of consistency for what you're aiming for. Maybe multiple different boosts based around guard counters and boost to stamina or guarding potency, maybe bleed weapons and bleed bonuses, or big weapons and charge attack bonuses, things like that. But a specific power that I had to do a ridiculous amount of good when I saw it is the one that gives lightning strikes after you successfully dodge attacks. There are a ton of situations in this game where you are being attacked by multiple enemies in melee range, and all you have to do when you have this power is dodge one attack to fire off a giant lightning bolt that will most often instantly kill anything within a pretty good radius around you. This makes clearing groups or packs of little guys extremely easy and very quick. It felt super strong when I had it, so I highly recommend that one if you are offered it, especially early enough to use it to boost your farming speed. And that brings us to the part of the video where we'll talk about actual strategies for success. Generally speaking, there are 4 main things to keep in mind. The first is that you can upgrade your flasks. I see a lot of groups making the mistake of ignoring that this mechanic exists when it can absolutely make the difference between success and failure all the time. There are 3 Churches of America on the map as set locations. They are always marked with the icons from the beginning, and by visiting these you can gain 1 flask charge. If you manage to get to all 3 of them, you can go up to 6 maximum flask charges, which is literally double what you start with. And then you'll get an extra one for free if you make it to night 3 as well. So it goes without saying that having that kind of extra longevity for every fight, especially for things like the Nightlord boss at the end, it's just a really big deal. Number 2 is Mage Towers. There are a couple of Mage Towers on the map as well, and these are super simple. One of them you open up by just walking over and hitting the glowing blue bush to the left of its entrance. The other one you open by whacking the statue out front with your sword and then the mark that creates too. You can then just walk into the tower, you climb up the center with jumps for anyone who didn't work that out, and then you can follow the stairs up for an easy and free upgrade at the top. This is always generally magic and int focused on the rewards itself because it's a mage tower, but that doesn't mean that they won't still be useful for non-magic builds that you're trying to make. The mage tower takes literally seconds to complete, and a free upgrade is a free upgrade. It can make you do better, simple as that. The third main tip is level up. Level up, level up, level up. The largest power increases in this game by far are the levels that you gain when you sit at a site of grace and spend your runes. Your highest priority outside of trying to work around the previous 2 tips that I just mentioned should be focusing on getting as many runes as possible each day. The days are limited by time, and so the overall game has a time limit on how long you have to gain power. An inefficient run might be like level 9, level 10 by the time you reach the Nightlord, especially if you start dying, because every time you die you lose a level and that can set you back massively. A more solid run though might be like level 12, but the maximum level is level 15, and it's possible to reach that within the timer if you just do your best to hit the high enemy density locations, hit as many bosses as possible, and do as little sitting around and waiting as you can. But aside from that, I also want to specify that you should be going out of your way to level up at a site of grace if you have the required runes to do so, especially for the first few levels. The difference between level 1 and even like level 3 is extremely large, especially for characters like Duchess, who are extremely squishy at the start of the run. Prioritize your leveling and you will see better results, simple as that. Then the fourth thing that I want to say really is just remember that especially right now in the network test where solo play isn't even an option, remember that you are part of a team. Your success isn't only based on your own skill or your own choices, it's based on how your team performs and more importantly, how well you're able to work with each other. There are a ton of ways the different heroes synergize together, especially Duchess with the restage ability repeating recent damage instances, Guardian creating fields of safety for other players to get reckless within, and Recluse just having access to a ridiculous arsenal of varied spells. Not to mention the fact that you can obviously revive each other, and the only way that you can fully have a run fail is if you fail to revive each other, so the better you get at doing that, the more chances of success you'll have too. There's a lot you can do to help your allies and improve your chances of victory as a result. If you want to help organize your team, for example, make use of the waypoint function on the map, and you can also ping your current location by holding triangle and pressing in the left stick on PlayStation, Y and left stick on Xbox, and you can use this to sort of notify your teammates of loot or bosses or anything relevant that you found really. That pretty much does it for today everyone, just a bit of a guide on how to get more power and more consistent success from your your runs in Elden Ring Nightreign from my experiences within the network test currently being run so far. I found that this is the best way to just consistently become powerful by the actual end of the cycles, and of course, even if you do all this and you have good luck on your drops and everything, you could just get trash luck and have the second night boss where it's the Draconic Tree Sentinels and then 2 Guardians, and that is just absolutely awful, and it will probably kill your run regardless of how well it's going. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much you do, this game is heavily random. It's the sort of core of being a roguelike. Hopefully this helps you out though in some way. Like if you liked the video, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.